The moving truck turned the corner just after sunrise, and the husband felt a small burst of joy. The street was clean and wide, lined with trees that made soft shapes on the pavement. Sparrows hopped along the grass. A sprinkler clicked somewhere nearby. His wife smiled at him. They had talked about this day for months, a fresh start, a little house with a small front yard and a big sky overhead. It felt like the right chapter for them. They parked in the driveway and stepped out, hands on hips, taking a slow look around. The houses all seemed cared for, not fancy, but warm. A little boy on a bike pedaled past and said, "Hi." Across the street, an older man waved while dragging a garden hose. A jogger passed with a friendly nod. The husband felt himself breathe more easily. He thought, "We are going to be happy here." The first few boxes were light, pillows, towels, a lamp wrapped in a blanket. They carried them through the front door and into a living room that smelled faintly of new paint. The wife laughed at a crooked picture nail on the wall and said they'd fix it later. As they moved back and forth, the house began to sound like them. Footsteps, little comments, a soft burst of music from a phone that kept them company. Every now and then, one of them would pause by a window just to look outside and enjoy the view. By mid-morning, a couple from down the block walked over with a plate of cookies. They introduced themselves as Nora and Luis. They said they'd lived on the street for 8 years and loved it. "People help each other here," Nora said. "We share ladders, share recipes, and sometimes share lawn equipment." The husband smiled, grateful for the welcome. The wife asked about trash pickup and where the nearest grocery store was, and Luis pointed toward the main road and listed a few places they'd like. When the newcomers mentioned they were excited, there was no HOA. Nora's eyebrows rose a little. She traded a small glance with Luis, then smoothed it away with a smile. "Well, most folks keep their places tidy anyway," Nora said. "You'll like it here." She handed over the plate. The husband thought nothing of it. He was still, learning everyone's faces and names. There was a lot to notice on a first day. After lunch, they put together the dining table and set 2 cups of tea on it like a promise of calm. A soft breeze pushed through the open window. On the lawn, a pair of school-age siblings were drawing a chalk sun on the sidewalk. The wife said it reminded her of the neighborhood she grew up in. The husband said it reminded him of summer. It was a sweet pause before more trips to the truck. That was when they first saw her. A woman in a crisp blouse, neat slacks, and clean white sneakers walked with purpose down the sidewalk. She carried a dark clipboard against her side. Her posture was confident, chin lifted, stride steady. She glanced at house numbers as if checking items off a list. When she reached their yard, she smiled, but her eyes were measuring. "Welcome," she said before they could speak. "I'm Carol. I lead the neighborhood association." The husband offered his hand. "Nice to meet you, Carol." The wife smiled politely. There was a small pause, the kind that happens when people are deciding how formal to be with strangers. "We're still moving in," the wife said. "It's a busy day." Carol nodded as if she had expected that. Then she flipped the clipboard open and started talking. "First, we like to keep trash bins hidden from street view," she said, tapping her pen. "Second, lawn height should be kept under 3 inches. Third, exterior paint must remain within our approved palette. You'll find all of that in the welcome packet. Also, window coverings should be white or off-white facing the street for a uniform look." She smiled like a teacher finishing a lesson. "I'll need your signatures on the membership form and the first month's dues." The husband and wife looked at each other. Their real estate documents had been clear. The property was not part of an HOA. They had asked that question because they wanted the freedom to set a small herb garden and maybe paint their front door a cheerful color. The wife spoke first, kindly. "We were told there's no HOA on this street." Carol smiled again, as if she'd practiced this moment. "The paperwork is behind," she said. "Our association is community-run. We keep things in order. Everyone Participates. It's just part of the neighborhood culture. She tapped the clipboard with 2 fingers. There's a small monthly contribution. It covers community standards and seasonal decorations. Nothing burdensome. The husband tried to keep his voice friendly. Is this a formal HOA? Because our closing documents say there isn't one. He didn't want to sound defensive. He just wanted clarity. The word association could mean a lot of things, and he hadn't even found the box with their silverware yet. Carol's eyes followed a bird across the sky, then came back to him. We don't do everything the formal way, she said, but we expect cooperation. It keeps the street looking good. You'll hear the same from anyone on this block. She turned a page on the clipboard and held up a form that looked like it had been printed at home. The header read, Neighborhood Association, New Member Agreement. Below it were blank lines for names, address, and a signature. There was also a space for a monthly amount. The wife looked calm, but the husband knew she was taking in every detail. She asked, Do you have a brochure or a website? Or meeting notes? Her tone stayed gentle. She was good at that, asking. Simple questions that moved things forward without making anyone feel attacked. Carol cleared her throat, as if she preferred not to be asked questions about process. We keep it simple, she said. I'll bring by a packet. She pointed her pen toward their windows. By the way, those curtains look cream from outside. If they're tinted, you might want to switch to white. It's in the guidelines. The husband felt a small knot form in his stomach. It wasn't anger. It was confusion. He didn't want to start off on the wrong foot. He also didn't want to sign something that didn't exist in any official record. He said they needed a little time to unpack and look through their files. Maybe the welcome packet would explain everything. Carol nodded as if this was a common response for new neighbors. I'll stop by this evening for your signatures, she said. Enjoy settling in. Then she walked away with that same measured stride, clipboard tucked close. When she was gone, the husband exhaled slowly. The wife ran her fingers along the table edge, thinking. They didn't jump to conclusions. Instead, they returned to their boxes. He unwrapped a set of dishes. She lined a cabinet with shelf paper. Every now and then, one of them would say, What do you think? And the other would say, Let's just see. They were a good team that way. They liked to gather facts. In the afternoon, the older man across the street, the one with the hose, came by to say hello. He said his name was Mr. Dawson, and he had lived here since his children were small. Lovely little house, he said, with a smile. The wife asked about local parks and the library. Then, lightly, she asked how things worked around the neighborhood and if there were any rules they should know. Mr. Dawson's smile stayed, but his eyes softened in a different way, like someone who had seen a lot of seasons. People try to do right by each other, he said. Keep your place neat, help when someone needs a hand, and wave when you drive by. That's what matters to me. The husband almost asked a direct question about an association, but he held it back. He didn't want to make Mr. Dawson uncomfortable. The older man wished them well and told them where to find the best peaches in town. After he left, the wife pulled out a folder with the property records they had saved. She flipped through pages, closing statement, title insurance, a survey sketch of the lot. Nothing mentioned an HOA. She circled the line that said so, in clear words. They both felt reassured. As the day stretched on, the house began to change, from empty rooms to a place that held their lives. A throw blanket found its corner on the sofa. A lamp made a warm pool of light in the hallway. The husband watered a small fern by the front window. The wife placed a bowl of lemons on the counter, because she liked how cheerful they looked. Simple things, calm things. All the while, there was a small thought in the back of their minds, like a loose thread they hadn't tied. Late afternoon brought long shadows and the sound of sprinklers again. Nora waved on her way to the mailbox. The chalk drawing on the Sidewalk had grown into a whole chalk garden with suns and flowers and a bright blue butterfly. The husband smiled at it as he placed a doormat by the front door. He thought of how people make places feel like home by leaving friendly marks. Chalk on the sidewalk, laughter on a porch, a casserole delivered after a long week. That was the kind of order he believed in. Not complicated papers, but neighborly. Habits. Around dinner time, they ate sandwiches on the floor because the chairs hadn't been unboxed yet. They talked about the day the way they always did, what was easy, what was interesting, what they needed to remember. The wife said she would appreciate a clear explanation about the so-called association. The husband agreed. They didn't mind expectations like keeping the yard tidy. They just wanted simple, truthful information. Just as the light outside turned soft and gold, there was a gentle knock on the door. The husband stood and brushed crumbs from his hands. He opened the door and found Carol there again. Clipboard, held in both hands. She smiled as if this were routine. "I brought the welcome packet," she said. She handed over a thin folder with a page of guidelines, a calendar of remind. Morning came with quiet light and the soft sound of birds. The husband woke first and made tea. He stood by the window and watched the street come to life. A runner passed in a steady rhythm. A delivery van rolled by and stopped 2 doors down. The sky was open and gentle. He felt calm again, even after the questions from the night before. The wife joined him with a small smile and said she slept well. They agreed to keep the day simple. More unpacking, a quick trip to the store, and then a walk to learn the nearby blocks. When they stepped out to bring in a small box from the car, the husband noticed a piece of paper tucked under the front. Doormat. It was printed in bold letters. Friendly reminder community standards. Beneath the title was a short list. Trash bins, lawn height, window coverings, and a line that read, contribution due, $35. At the bottom, it said, "Thank you for being part of our neighborhood." There was no letterhead, no website, and no date. The wife read the page twice. She didn't raise her voice or let her face tighten. She just took a gentle breath and said, "We'll keep this with our notes." She slipped the paper into a folder on the console table next to their property documents. Then she wrote a simple line on a notepad. Day 2, reminder under mat. They returned to the work of settling in. The husband hung a small mirror in the hallway. The wife opened a box of books and smiled at forgotten titles. Still, a thread of uncertainty ran under the day, like a quiet background noise. Around mid-morning, the post arrived. The mail carrier handed over a stack of envelopes and waved. One envelope had their names handwritten on it. Inside was a welcome letter that looked like it had been made on a home printer. It repeated the standards, added a late fee policy, and invited them to monthly walkthroughs. It included a slip for payment, asking for the contribution by the end of the day. The husband looked at the wife and said, "We should speak with her again." The wife nodded. Yes, with kindness and clarity. They decided to get some air and walk toward the small park Nora had mentioned. On the sidewalk, they met Nora herself, who was clipping herbs in her front yard. "How's day 2?" she asked. The wife hesitated, then said, "We got a welcome letter from Carol. It asked for money right away. Is that normal?" Nora stopped clipping for a moment and pressed her lips together. "Carol likes order," she said, choosing her words carefully. "A lot of people just go along because it's easier. But you didn't sign anything at closing, right?" The husband shook his head. "Nothing." Nora nodded slowly. "Then be sure you're comfortable before you do anything. You deserve real information." At the park, children laughed near the swings. A dog tugged gently on its leash. The couple sat on a bench and watched leaves move in the breeze. The wife said, "I don't want this to become a conflict. I also don't want to accept something that isn't real." The husband agreed and said he would try to speak to Carol in a calm, direct way. They returned home after lunch, and as they turned up their walkway, They saw another paper taped neatly to the front window. It read, "Notice, lights left on after 10 p.m. The wife blinked at it, surprised. Their porch light had been on, yes, but only because they were still moving around after sunset. The note ended with "second reminder," even though this was the first time anyone had mentioned a time rule. The husband took the paper down and added it to the folder. The wife wrote another line on the notepad. "Window notice, lights after 10. They did not have to wait long to see Carol. 2 in the afternoon, she appeared with her firm stride and a small stack of forms. She greeted them, cheerful but brisk. "I trust you received the welcome packet," she said. "I can collect the first contribution now. It's simple to settle early." The husband smiled gently. "We saw the packet," he said. "We're still unclear. We didn't sign anything at closing. We were also told this street has no HOA. Carol tilted her head. "It's a neighborhood association. It keeps us all aligned. The city doesn't manage everything. We do. That's how we keep this place looking good." She held out a pen. "Here, add your signatures. We're a friendly group and we appreciate cooperation." The wife's voice was calm and even. "Can you share official records?" she asked. "Meeting minutes, banking details, registered documents, anything that shows how this is organized?" Carol's smile thinned. "We keep things simple," she said. "No one else has made it complicated. People pay, things run smoothly." The husband's tone stayed warm. "We like smooth. We also like clear. If you have anything official, we're happy to review it." Carol's eyes moved from the husband to the wife and back again. Then she said, "Everyone in this neighborhood participates. It's a shared understanding. You don't want to be the only house that doesn't follow the standards." She gestured toward their window. "I've already noticed a few items. Curtains should be white-facing. Lights off by 10. Trash bins not in view. We also ask for uniform flower pots. It's all written down." The wife wasn't bothered by the suggestions themselves. She simply wanted truth behind them. "Thank you for telling us," she said, softly. "We'll care for our home. We just won't sign or pay without proper records." Carol's posture grew firmer. "Well," she said, tapping her pen against the clipboard, "we will have to note non-compliance. There is a late fee after today. I'll be back this evening." With that, she turned and walked away, leaving a trail of small questions behind her. Inside, the couple sat at the dining table and made a plan. The wife suggested they call their real estate agent for another confirmation. The husband agreed and dialed the number. The agent answered with cheerful energy and said, "You're all settled in?" The husband explained the situation in simple sentences. The agent listened, then said, "Your property is not in an HOA. I'll email you the line from your title documents again, so you have it handy. If anyone claims otherwise, they need to provide official registration. Be cautious with any money." The email arrived a minute later, a neat summary with an attached record that clearly listed the property as not subject to an HOA. The wife printed it out and slid it into their folder. She added another note to their list. "Agent confirms no HOA, email saved." In the late afternoon, the older neighbor, Mr. Dawson, waved from his porch. The husband walked over to say hello and asked, kindly, how long Carol had been doing this. Mr. Dawson's eyes carried an old patience. "Carol likes things just so," he said. "Years ago, a few of us tried a neighbor group to plan yard sales and holiday lights. It faded. Carol kept a version of it going. She means well sometimes, but it's not official. Some folks pay because they don't like worry on their doorstep. Others don't. Life goes on." He looked over at the couple's house and added, "Be steady. That's all you need." The husband thanked him and returned with a calmer heart. He told the wife what he'd heard. The wife nodded and wrote, "Informal group in past, not official now," on the notepad. Then she took photos of the papers they had received just to have a record. They weren't trying to make trouble. They were just collecting facts. Near evening, they were planting a small herb pot by the front steps when Carol returned. She did not offer a smile this time. She held the same forms and a new sheet labeled Final Reminder. "I'm here to collect dues and signatures," she said. "If you choose not to participate, you'll see a late fee on your notice tomorrow. We run on time here." The husband stood and wiped soil from his hands. "We aren't paying today," he said, still gentle. "We need documents that show this group exists officially. We want to be good neighbors. We also want clarity." Carol's response was quick. "You don't want to start off on the wrong side of things," she said. "People notice. They expect standards." There was no open anger in her tone, but there was pressure, like a door slowly pushed forward. The wife looked at her plainly, with steady kindness. "We will continue to care for our home," she said. "We'll listen to good suggestions. That helped the block. But we can't sign or pay into something that we can't verify. If there is proof, we're happy to review it." Carol's eyes moved to the herb pot, as if it too were a question. Then she said, "I'll make a note," and wrote something on her clipboard. "We'll be watching," she added, as if it were a normal sentence. She placed a folded paper on the porch, turned, and walked away. The husband let out a slow breath. The wife picked up the paper and unfolded it. This one had boxes to check, like a list: porch light, curtain color, flower pot uniformity, bin location. At the bottom, a handwritten line said, "Dues with late fee due tomorrow." The wife placed it into the folder and wrote, "Evening visit, new list." After dinner, the couple took a walk around the block to clear their minds. The air was soft and porch lights began to glow one by one. On a corner, they met a young father pushing a stroller. He recognized them as the new neighbors and weaved a gentle conversation. When they asked, carefully, how things worked on the street, he lowered his voice and said, "Carol can be strong with new people. We try to be friendly and keep our homes nice. Some of us don't pay. Some do, to avoid the back and forth. I wish it was more open and fair." They thanked him and walked on. A few houses later, another neighbor watered flowers and said hello. The wife kept her questions light but clear. The neighbor sighed and said, "I gave her money the first year because I felt nervous. I didn't know what else to do. Then I stopped. It wasn't official. Nothing changed." She shrugged one. Sunlight slid across their kitchen floor like a quiet hello. The husband brewed tea and watered the fern. The wife checked their simple list for the day: unpack books, arrange the bedroom, buy light bulbs. They wanted a normal day. They also knew it might not be normal, not yet. Before breakfast, the husband stepped outside to shake the doormat. When he lifted it, he found another paper. This one had a bold heading: "Community Standards, Late Notice." Below that, a handwritten line read, "Final day to contribute. Thank you." There was still no letterhead, no website, no date. He brought it inside and placed it gently into their folder. They ate toast at the table and kept their tone light. The wife traced the rim of her cup and said, "We will stay kind, and we will stay clear." The husband nodded. He liked that she always returned to those 2 points. He suggested they write a short letter to request official records. "Plain words," he said. "Polite, firm." The wife smiled and pulled out a clean sheet of paper. In neat handwriting, she wrote, "Dear Carol, thank you for the welcome. Please share any official registration, meeting notes, and bank information for the neighborhood group. We care for our home and will follow good norms. We will not sign or pay without records, with thanks." They made a copy, signed, and slipped one into an envelope. Before delivering the letter, they decided to do a small tour of the front yard. The husband trimmed the grass edges. The wife swept the walkway. They tucked the trash bins neatly along the side of the house, not because of pressure, but because they preferred tidy corners. A passing neighbor slowed her steps to say hello. She introduced herself as Ms. Reed, a retired teacher with kind eyes and a soft scarf tied at her neck. When they gently asked how the block worked, Ms. Reed sighed. "Carol is very active," she said. "I gave her money at first. I kept a receipt." She looked a little embarrassed and then added, "I did not want worry at my door. Later, I changed my mind." The wife's face stayed warm. "Thank you for sharing," she said. "You were doing your best." Ms. Reed brightened a little and suggested the best time to visit the small bakery nearby. On their way back, they slipped their letter under Carol's door with a simple sticky note. From the new neighbors. It felt civil and proper. Then, the husband called their real estate agent again, just to be certain. The agent was steady. "No HOA. If someone wants funds, they must show real proof." Next, the wife called the city's community office. The clerk was helpful and kind. The clerk said there was no registered homeowner association for their street. "Be careful with money," she added. "If someone is collecting funds for a group, they should be transparent and authorized by members, with clear written rules." The wife wrote this down. "City confirms, no registered HOA. Transparency needed for any group." After lunch, they visited Nora with a plate of the remaining cookies, a small act of neighborliness. Nora accepted the plate and listened as they explained their letter. Luis leaned against the porch rail and nodded. "You're doing it right," he said. "Ask for proof. If this was official, it would be easy to show." Nora lowered her voice and said, "Some neighbors are tired. They feel it's easier to agree than to ask questions. But you're not being unkind. You're being careful." The wife appreciated those words. When they returned home, a paper was taped to their front door in red ink. It read, "Notice, non-member. Late fee applies. Walk through tomorrow at 10 a.m. The husband removed it carefully, photographed it, and placed it into the folder. He wrote a friendly note and taped it in the same spot. "Please email any group records. We are happy to review. Thank you." He included their email address. He stood back and looked at the door. It felt good to answer paper with paper, but in a kinder voice. Mid-afternoon brought more small visits. The young father with the stroller passed by and lifted a hand. "How are things?" he asked. The husband answered honestly, "A bit complex, but we're okay." The father looked at their door note and said, "That's a good message." He hesitated, then added, "If you ever want to talk with others on the street, we can stop by. Sometimes people just need to feel not alone." The wife thanked him and said they might host lemonade one evening. He smiled and said his toddler loved lemonade. At 4 o'clock, the retired teacher returned with a small envelope. Inside, there were 2 narrow receipts from past years. Each one had a date, an amount, and the words, "Neighborhood Association Contribution," written in the same tidy handwriting they had seen on their notices. Ms. Reed looked a little lighter when she handed them over. "Please make copies and keep them," she said. "Maybe it will help." The wife promised to scan them and return the originals. She added a line to their notes. "Receipts exist, same handwriting as current notes." It was around this time that Carol arrived. Her steps sounded crisp on the walkway. She held her clipboard, but now there was a small stack of new pages secured by a clip. She glanced at the sign on the door and then at the couple. Her smile returned, but it did not reach her eyes. "I see you found our reminders," she said. "I'm here to help you finish your membership. It won't take long." The husband nodded politely. "We've written a letter," he said. "We're happy to join a real group, but we need official records first." He handed her a copy of their polite letter. Carol took it, but did not look down. "We don't make this complicated," she said. "Everyone else understands. This is normal." The wife's tone stayed calm and steady. "We spoke with the city office," she said. "They said there's no registered homeowner association on this street. If this is a different kind of group, we would need to see how it is organized. For example, meeting notes, sign-ups, and bank information. Carol tapped her pen against her clipboard. "You don't have to involve the city," she said quickly. "This is a neighborhood matter. We do things our way. If you don't participate, there are consequences. Walkthroughs, notices, fees." She said it as if reading a list she had memorized. The husband's voice stayed warm. "We don't want any trouble," he said. "We want to follow fair norms, but we can't agree to fees or sign forms for a group we can't verify." He glanced at the papers on her clipboard. The format looked the same as before. Home printer pages with blank lines and boxes. Carol shifted her weight and lowered her voice. "I can call the police if I have to," she said. "Non-compliance can be recorded. It reflects on you." She glanced at the neighbors' houses, as if the street itself were a witness. The wife did not raise an eyebrow. She simply asked, "What exactly would you ask the police to do?" Her tone was polite, curious. Carol blinked and did not answer the question directly. "We'll schedule a walkthrough tomorrow morning," she said instead. "I'll bring someone with me." She set a paper on their porch that said, "Walkthrough 10:00 a.m. Required." After she left, the couple stood together, quiet for a moment. The husband picked up the paper and added it to their folder. The wife wrote in neat lines. Carol said she can call police. Set walkthrough for 10 a.m. No official proof given. Then she took a gentle breath and said, "We'll be ready to speak with anyone who comes. We'll keep our words simple and true." The husband nodded. "Facts and calm," he said. They agreed to gather their materials in one place that evening. Before dinner, the couple walked down the block and invited a few neighbors to lemonade. The next day, in the early evening, they did not speak in a heated way. They just said they were new and wanted to know people. "We'll put out a pitcher and some cups," the wife said. "Come by if you like." Most people smiled and said they would try. A few looked relieved, as if an open porch might open other things too. They ate early and organized their papers. At the table, the folder had grown. Inside it were the welcome packet, reminders, door notes, the agent's email, the city clerk's guidance, and the old receipts from Ms. Reed. The wife placed sticky notes on the edges so she could find items fast. She also added a short summary on the first page. "Our home is not part of an HOA. We will not pay without official proof of any group. We are happy to follow fair norms by choice." As the sun lowered, the chalk butterfly on the sidewalk caught the last of the light. A soft breeze moved the new leaves on their herb pot. The husband listened to the calm of the block and felt its goodness again. He wanted that goodness to be the main story, not notes and fees. He looked at the wife and said, "Thank you for staying steady." She answered, "We're steady together." Just after sunset, there was a knock. It was firmer than before, not loud but meant to be heard. The husband opened the door. Carol stood there again, this time with a second person he had not seen. Before, a tall man in a bright safety vest. The man held a clipboard, too. He said he was there to observe. He did not say which group he represented. The wife greeted them both and stepped onto the porch, keeping her tone calm. She asked the man for his name, and he gave only a first name. She asked what group he was with. He said, "Neighborhood support." Carol spoke quickly. "We need to go over your porch light time, your window coverings, and your plant choices. Then you'll sign the contribution slip. Otherwise, we move forward with notes." The wife did not step back. She said, "We will not have a walkthrough tonight. We asked for records. We did not receive them. We will not sign or pay without proof and proper authority." Carol's gaze settled on her, sharp and unblinking. The mother plaques. Morning arrived clear and bright, like a new page. The husband made tea and set 2 cups on the table. The wife opened the folder one more time and checked each paper. She placed sticky notes so she could find things quickly. Title record, email. From the agent, notes from the city clerk, copies of the notices, the old receipts from Ms. Reed. They were not nervous now. They were ready. They had a plan. Keep the talk on the porch, stay polite, and ask for proof. By 9:30, the house felt peaceful. Sunlight warmed the front steps. The herb pot gave off a soft, clean smell. The husband set a small folding table near the door with a sign that said, "Lemonade at 6 p.m. All neighbors welcome." He wanted the day to end with people talking together, not with papers taped to windows. The wife smiled at the sign. "Good," she said. "Open doors and open hearts." At 9:45, a few neighbors drifted onto their porches. No one made a scene. They just watched with quiet interest. The young father pushed the stroller in slow circles. Nora leaned on her railing, pretending to tie a plant to a small stake. Mr. Dawson sat in his chair with a book, but he was not reading. The street hummed with the gentle sounds of a normal morning. Lawn mowers far away, a dog's collar jingling, a bike bell. At exactly 10 o'clock, Carol appeared on the sidewalk with her familiar stride. The man in the bright vest walked beside her. Today he carried a small notepad and wore a serious face, like someone who had been given a part to play. Carol's clipboard was thicker now, with extra pages clipped on top. She stopped at the foot of the couple's steps and looked up. Her smile returned, tight and practiced. "Good morning," she said. "We're here for the walk-through and to collect your contribution." The husband stepped onto the porch and kept his voice calm. "Good morning, Carol. We won't be doing a walk-through. We are happy to speak here on the porch. We still need the official records we asked for." He motioned toward the small table by the door where the folder rested within easy reach. The wife stood beside him, her posture relaxed, her eyes clear. She had a notebook in her hand, not as a threat, but as a simple tool. Carol lifted the top page on her clipboard. "These are our guidelines," she said. "They have been in place for years. You're late on your first contribution. There will be a fee." She tried to move one step up, but the husband gently shook his head. "We do not consent to any inspection," he said kindly. "Our home is private. If you have official authority, please show it. If not, we'll just talk. Here." The man in the vest cleared his throat. "I'm here to observe," he said. The wife smiled at him softly. "Which group are you with?" she asked. He hesitated. "Neighborhood support," he repeated. The wife nodded once. "Thank you," she said, and turned back to Carol. "We're asking for simple proof. If there is a registered association, please share the registration. If there is a bank account for the group, please show who manages it. If there are meeting notes, please show those. We want to see how decisions are made." Carol's smile thinned. "We keep things simple," she said again. "I've been doing this for years. Everyone understands. We expect cooperation." She tapped her pen against the clipboard. "If you won't join, we will note non-compliance. That will bring more attention." Her words were not loud, but they pressed forward like a closed door edging against a foot. The wife did not move. Her tone stayed warm and steady. "We spoke with the city office," she said. "They confirmed there is no registered homeowner association for this street. Our title documents also say there is no HOA. If you are collecting money as a group, there should be clear records. If this is private collecting, that is different. It must be clear and honest." She lifted a hand slightly as if offering a bridge. "We want good order. We also want truth." Across the street, Mr. Dawson turned a page in his book, even though he was not reading. Nora looked down at her plant, then back up. The young father stopped the stroller and rested a hand on the handle. The block had grown very quiet. Carol's face shifted. "If you prefer, we can involve the police," she said. "They can explain that this is a community standard. People expect you to follow it. It reflects on you if you do not." She pulled her phone from her pocket and held it loosely, as if the next step was already decided. The wife spoke in a gentle voice. Before you do that, I want to show you something so we're all clear why this is serious. She reached into her bag and removed a small leather holder. She opened it with steady hands. Inside was her federal identification and badge. She did not raise it high or use a sharp motion. She simply held it at a calm, respectful angle so Carol and the man in the vest could see. I work for a federal agency, she said clearly. I am off duty. I am not here as law enforcement. I cannot and will not act as police. She let the words sit for a breath. But I do know the rules about asking people for money under claims of authority. Carol stopped moving. Her phone stayed in her hand, but her thumb no longer hovered over the screen. The man in the vest looked at the badge, then at the wife's face, then at the badge again. He took one small step back. The wife closed the holder and returned it to her bag. Her voice stayed soft. We are trying to keep this peaceful. We are asking for clear records. If there are no records, then the notices and fees must stop today. If they continue, we will share our folder with the city and the proper office that handles misleading collection. The husband added in a gentle tone, We aren't trying to embarrass anyone. Many people want the block to look nice. So do we. We'll mow our lawn, keep our bins out of view, and use white curtains because we like the look. But we won't sign or pay for something that isn't real. For a long moment, Carol said nothing. She looked up the street and then down, as if searching for a script she had misplaced. Her voice, when it came, was smaller. I was only trying to keep things in order, she said. People let things slip. I don't like to see the block go down. She touched the edge of her clipboard, not writing anything, just touching it. The man in the vest shifted his weight and looked at his shoes. The wife nodded with real kindness. I believe you want things neat, she said. That is a good wish. But how we do it matters. If neighbors want a group, it should be open and honest. People should vote, choose a treasurer, keep a simple ledger that anyone can see, and agree to what the money is for. No one should feel afraid of notes on their door. Her eyes softened. We can start fresh, today. On the porch across the street, Mr. Dawson let out a breath he had seemed to be holding. On Nora's steps, a small smile appeared. The young father bounced the stroller once, gently. The air felt a little lighter. The husband pointed to the lemonade at 6 p.m. sign. We're inviting everyone to talk together tonight, he said. If people want to plan a yard sale or holiday lights, we can write names on a sign-up sheet. We can set a small jar for optional donations and keep a list for everyone to see. Simple and clean. Carol's eyes moved to the sign and then back to the wife. Are you going to report me? She asked. The question was quiet, not dramatic, but it carried a lot of weight. The wife met that question with care. If the notices and fee demands stop now, and if there is no more pressure on anyone, we plan to let this rest, she said. We want peace. If it continues, we will share our notes with the city and the right office. We hope that won't be needed. The man in the vest found his voice first. I think I should go, he said softly. Good morning. He gave a small nod and walked away, not fast, but with the relief of someone who had put down a heavy thing. Carol stayed. Where she was, her clipboard held against her chest like a shield that no longer fit. Slowly, she lowered it. I won't put any more notes, she said. I won't ask for money. I was trying to help. I see that I made things confusing. She looked tired in that moment, as if the role she had carried had worn her down more than she had noticed. The wife offered a small, real smile. Thank you, she said. If you want to plan things for the block, come by at 6. You know the houses and the people. You can help in a better way. Carol nodded once. I'll think about it, she said. She turned to leave, then paused. I'm sorry for the pressure, she added, almost in a whisper. Then she walked down the steps and along the sidewalk. She did not look back. The street stayed quiet for a few seconds. Then small sounds returned. The book on Mr. Dawson's lap closing, Nora calling, "See you at 6, the stroller wheels, starting up again. The husband looked at the wife with gratitude that showed in his eyes more than in words. You were clear, he said softly. You were kind. She answered, we were clear together. She reached for the folder and placed it back inside the house, not hidden but not front and center anymore. It had done its job for the day. They spent the next hour putting out folding chairs and setting a big glass pitcher on the small table. The wife wrote, "Ideas for our street," at the top of a blank sheet and taped it to a clipboard with a pen. The husband set out a little basket for optional coins if people wanted to pitch in for holiday lights, with a fresh index card beside it that read, "We will post totals weekly." Simple, honest, open. In the afternoon, the block felt different. People waved more. 2 neighbors the couple had not met yet stopped by just to say hello and to ask about the lemonade. Ms. Reed brought a plate of small muffins and said, "For later." She looked lighter, antied. The why. Evening drifted in with soft light and the smell of lemons. The husband carried the big glass pitcher to the porch and set it on the small table. The wife placed a bowl of ice beside it and lined up paper cups in neat rows. A gentle breeze touched the leaves of the herb pot. The sign, "Lemonade at 6 p.m., all neighbors welcome," looked friendly, not fancy. It was exactly what they wanted, an open door without pressure. At first, only one person came. It was the young father with the stroller. He smiled and said he had brought a sleeve of cups just in case. His toddler pointed at the yellow drink and said a happy word the couple didn't fully understand, but the joy in it was clear. The husband poured a tiny half cup for the child and a full one for the father. They traded names, slow and warm, like people who want to remember and be remembered. Next came Nora and Luis, carrying a plate of cut limes and a small jar of sugar for choices, Nora said. They set the plate down, and the porch immediately felt more alive. Then Ms. Reed arrived with her plate of small muffins from earlier. She looked proud of them. "I added lemon glaze," she said quietly, and it felt like a thoughtful gift. A few more neighbors appeared, faces the couple had seen in passing but had not yet met. The older neighbor, Mr. Dawson, took the last step slowly and settled in a folding chair with a soft sigh. "Good idea," he said. "Warm evening, good company." The porch filled little by little with small talk and gentle introductions. People tasted the lemonade and said nice things about it. The wife added water to the pitcher to keep it going. The husband cracked a few ice cubes and passed them around in a bowl. For a while, no one spoke about notices or rules. They spoke about the bakery on the corner, the best day to put out bulk trash, and the nearest place to get a spare key made. The couple listened more than they talked. That had always been their way. When a quiet pause arrived, the wife lifted, her voice a little, still soft. "We're glad you're here," she said. "We're new to the street, and we want to be good neighbors. We want to talk tonight about how we can keep this block nice in a fair, open way. If anyone has ideas, we brought a clipboard to write them down." She pointed to a page that read, "Ideas for our street." Nora spoke first. "I love the holiday lights," she said, "but it would help if we planned together. Maybe a weekend for putting them up and a weekend for taking them down. We could share ladders." Luis added, "We can help with lifting. I can borrow a tall step ladder from work." The young father said he could print a simple map to show where power outlets were and where not to overload them. The husband wrote these ideas on the sheet with neat handwriting. Ms. Reed raised her hand a little, like the teacher she had been. "A yard sale once a year," she said. "We can clear our closets and put out tables on the same day. It brings people out to talk." The wife wrote, "Annual yard sale, spring," and nodded with a smile. Mr. Dawson, who often spoke with fewer words, said, "Sidewalk safety. Keep hedges trimmed so children are easy to see." Heads nodded around the porch. The couple added that to the list. The young father glanced toward the street and then back to the group. He asked carefully, "What about funds? Should we even have them?" The porch grew quiet. The couple waited, letting the group breathe. Finally, Nora said, "If we need money for lights or the yard sale signs, we can have a little jar, but it must be simple and open." Ms. Reed said, "2 people should count it and write the total. Write what it's for. Keep it on a page anyone can read." The husband held up the empty basket and the index card. "If you want, we can start with this for holiday lights," he said. "Totally optional. We will post totals weekly on a sheet on the porch or in a shared message. No surprises," the wife added. "And we should vote on things before spending. A simple yes or no. We don't need to make it heavy." People seemed to relax at those words. The young father asked if anyone could set up a group chat for the street, just for clear notices and friendly updates. Luis said he could do it and read names out loud as people joined, to be sure he added them right. The conversation flowed like a small stream, steady, clean, not rushing. People suggested a monthly porch hour to check in. Someone offered to bring a toolbox for a fix-it Saturday morning now and then, just to tighten loose hinges or help with fence latches. A neighbor they hadn't met yet, a quiet woman with paint on her shirt, offered to lead a porch paint day in the fall for anyone who wanted to refresh a railing. The husband wrote all of it carefully. The page grew full and the wife added a second page without fuss. Then, to everyone's surprise, Carol appeared at the edge of the lawn. She did not carry a clipboard. She held only a small plate covered in plastic wrap, cookies with colorful sprinkles. She looked hesitant, like someone walking onto a stage after the music had started. The wife caught her eye and smiled. "Come sit," she said with real warmth. The husband added a chair. Carol sat down and set the plate on the table, not quite looking at anyone yet. For a moment, the porch went quiet again. Then Ms. Reed said in that calm teacher voice, "Thank you for the cookies." She reached for the plate, opened it, and set it in the center. The young father took one and gave a tiny piece to his toddler, who clapped. The sound was so simple and happy that it broke a thin layer of tension no one had named. People smiled. Carol let out a breath. The wife spoke first. "We're making a simple plan for the street," she said. "No pressure, open notes, if you'd like to help. We welcome you." Carol nodded slowly. "I know who lives where," she said. "I can help make the map." She said the words without claiming a title. It sounded different from before. It sounded like a neighbor's voice. Together, they wrote a few more ideas. They chose a Sunday afternoon for a block-tidy day. Just an hour of light work to pick up stray leaves, trim hedges touching sidewalks, and check for loose nails on fences. They decided the yard sale would be in the spring, not too early, not too late. They agreed on quiet hours for lawn tools, no early mornings or late evenings. All of it was spoken gently and written clearly. When the basket for optional donations came up, the husband tapped the index card. "We will never pressure anyone," he said. "This is for string lights only. We'll post the total each week on a little board. 2 people will count it and write the number down." He looked at Carol and asked, "Would you be one of the 2 today with me?" It was a simple trust, offered like a hand across a small gap. Carol looked surprised, then grateful. "Yes," she said. They counted the few bills and coins that neighbors had added. Nothing large, just simple kindness, and wrote the number on the card. The wife taped the card to the basket with a small piece of clear tape. The porch gathering did not end with a cheer or a grand speech. It ended with people rinsing cups, sharing the last muffins, and walking home with easy steps. Names had been learned, ideas had been written. A path had been set in quiet chalk lines that could be followed without force. The wife saw the man in the bright vest pass by on the sidewalk. He lifted a hand in a small wave, half apology, half hello. She waved back, and that was enough. When the chairs were stacked and the pitcher was empty, the couple sat on the top step and watched the street settle. The husband felt the day's weight, but it was a good weight, like a blanket on a cool night. The wife leaned her shoulder against his. "We did not want a fight," she said. "We wanted a fair way." He nodded, and we found one. In the days that followed, small changes became real. Luis made the group chat and labeled it with the street name and a single heart. Nora shared a list of local service contacts, plumbers, electricians, a person who fixed squeaky gates. The young father posted a kind reminder about driving slowly near the chalk garden. Ms. Reed shared a photo of her tiny lemon-glazed muffins with a laughing note that she had finally learned to make the glaze less runny. People replied with smile icons and simple thanks. Carol came by with a hand-drawn map of the block, neat and clear. She and the wife sat at the table and added labels for porch lights, outlet locations, and the best place to hang a shared string of lights. Carol brought a small notebook and suggested a lights weekend. She did not ask for money. She asked who could come and at what time. The wife appreciated the difference. It was not a demand. It was an invitation. The husband printed a one-page porch guide from their notes. It said in simple lines, "Keep hedges trimmed for sidewalk safety. Share tools when you can. Ask before taping any notices to doors. Choose white-facing curtains if you like the look. Quiet hours for loud tools. Lemonade or tea on the first Saturday of each month. Whoever can come. Optional basket for lights with posted totals. Decisions by quick vote in the chat or at porch hour. No surprises. No pressure. Be kind." They posted the guide on a small corkboard by their front door and shared a picture of it in the group chat. People sent thumbs up. No one argued. It felt like a gentle fence, clear lines to lean on, not walls to push against. Weeks moved forward. The herb pot grew full and bright. The couple painted their front door a soft blue that made the lemons in the bowl look even happier inside. Children added new shapes to the chalk garden. The husband found himself waving at familiar faces with real warmth now, not just polite habit. The wife took quiet pride in the corkboard when she passed it. The little index cards with totals for the Lights Fund were tidy and on as one afternoon, the city.